So basically what I'm going to share with you right now is a 15, 16 week college semester graduate level course on adolescent reading comprehension in about 5 minutes. Because we're all really, really smart because we're teachers, we're educators, so we're super smart. The whole idea of the science of reading is not new. It's over half a century old. Reading as a area of study emerged from psychology, the field of psychology, back in the 50s, post World War II. And then, of course, it just accelerated, particularly in the 70s and onward. And there have been, I'm sure you've heard of the reading wars and the battle between different approaches to the teaching of reading. And what science of reading does is really gets down to the bare bones of what does the research, what does the evidence that is presented in this mega body of research, what has it been telling us in the last 50 years? And of course, now what we know too in neuroscience, particularly in the last 15 years, is pretty nerdy and geeky because it just keeps reinforming what we know about reading processes. So the first thing to start off is that human beings are not equipped for reading. We're not naturally hardwired for reading. It's kind of a cool factoid. So the fact that we've developed being able to read the written word is actually a phenomena that's happened. And then it particularly accelerated in the 1600s with the invention of the printing press. So here's what we need to know. There's basically two reading approaches or reading theory models du jour. And one of them is the simple reading theory, and then the other is Scarborough's reading rope. And I bet many of you have heard of Scarborough's reading rope. I want to briefly talk about it and what it means for us as teachers of adolescents, as educators of adolescents, because there are some distinct differences. The way that we teach comprehension and reading is related, but yet different than what it is for little people, for our little guys. So that's what I'm really going to emphasize. And that's where my passion and my work as an educator has always been contextualized, is in the role of the raging hormonal pubescence. Those are my people. So think of, yeah, Eileen has a penchant too for the raging hormonal adolescents too. We love them. And so here's what the reading rope is. So there's basically two strands, just like you have on a rope. And so we have two main areas. One is that word recognition. The other is that language comprehension. And they keep intertwining and intertwining and intertwining as you go through school, and it gets tighter and tighter and tighter till you get to that skilled reading. Well, little people, that's what we really focus on, is word recognition, phonological awareness, decoding, sight recognition. So Fry's sight words, as well as being able to understand that CH means ch and ING is ing, all of those things. So kids learn how to decode with automaticity. Dan Willingham, who I'm a big fangirl of, he is a professor of psychology, cognitive psychology out of the University of Virginia. And he's documented quite prolifically about that once you can decode anything. So our issue is oftentimes in middle school and high school is the kids can decode, they go near across the page, and you say, hey, what's the author's message? What's the theme? What can you infer about the text? And the kids look at you and go, they have no idea. And that's where that top part, the language comprehension, comes in. So if kids are not still effective with their decoding at this level, that's another issue. So I'm talking about kids who can decode. If kids can't decode, then that is an intervention that we need to talk about. That has to be a strategic intervention. But the vast majority of our kids are in that language comprehension part of the reading rope. So that's background knowledge. Background knowledge is not just when I knew when World War II was, it's also background knowledge, like I understand how texts work, and I understand the difference between a Petrarchan sonnet and reading a science lab report. And then vocabulary. I cannot emphasize it enough, and it needs to be taught within our subject matters. It's a way to understand and comprehend our subject matters. Then language structure, so syntax, semantics, being able to navigate in a math textbook as opposed to being able to navigate within a memoir. And then verbal reasoning, that's where inferencing comes in. This is why we do need to teach literature in a curriculum. It's great for really developing that inferencing level of comprehension, metaphors, symbols, figurative language, all of that. And then literacy knowledge. So print concepts, text structures, that's what we're getting at. So that's basically it. That's where we're really focused. And I always indicate, I always say to fellow high school teachers in particular, when they say, well, I teach chemistry, and I'm like, yes, you teach chemistry. However, you are also teaching kids to understand, to comprehend the subject matter that you so dearly love. So one of the things that we know about this reading strand, the language comprehension part of the reading rope, is that that's a way for kids to understand the subject matter that I so dearly love, and being a content expert. So these are comprehension strategies. There's a way to understand and access text.